We are happy to be back here with you guys. And if it's morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you're watching us from, thank you for tuning in. We are Zinkerz, and we literally are not even going to say it. We're the best when it comes to test prep, and there is an SAT coming up on December 3rd. That's why we're here. I am joined today with our mad genius, Mr. Zachary, and our CIO, Miss Carly. At the end of the day, the reason we're doing these lives is to give you more information. We're trying to bring forward all the trends that are happening with the SAT. We are, in a way, we want to inform you, educate you, help you be better prepared for everything that's coming up. And that's why the three of us are here today. As a flyer, I'm actually going to put it up again so you guys can take a quicker look at it. The SAT marathons are happening. They're going to be taking place on November 26th through December 1st. They're going to be online. Haley, Zach, Scott, and myself are going to be there. We are all going to be led by Carly itself in preparation for the December SAT taking place on the 3rd. Okay. So, before we start, you all know Carly. We've been here with Carly before. Thank you to everyone who watched our previous live. The feedback was amazing and we appreciate you. Today we are joined by the man himself, Mr. Zachary. Zachary, before we start, anything else? Introduce yourself, my friend.
Yeah, so it's good to be here. Thanks for having us. So we're here, to talk about not only just the math portion, which is kind of what I handle here at Zinkerz, but really just the SAT in general and what topics we're starting to see shift in terms of the previous version that we've seen in the SAT.
Okay, very good. Carly, all yours.
So here at Zinkerz, one thing that we pride ourselves in is really staying ahead of the curve. So one thing that we like to do is do extensive research and read everything that we can find and learn everything that we know that we can learn about all of the past exams that have been happening. So we've been spending a lot of time looking at certain trends and certain things that are happening in the SATs. And we've noticed a few things. And Zach can tell us a little bit more about some of the stuff that we're noticing in math. And then Manny, you can tell us a little bit more about some of the verbal trends. So Zach, can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing in math without giving everything away?
Certainly, yeah. So we're definitely seeing this shift into more of what I would say is like a figure problem solving approach. So we're seeing a lot more geometric figures, a lot more circles, a lot more kind of figures inside of figures. And with that approach, at least how Zinkerz is taking this, is we're kind of breaking it up into these parts and really focusing on the necessary information. You don't have to know all of these extra pieces, all these postulates that they teach you and this and that. We're really just focusing on what are the basics and how are you going to put the basics together in this problem solving approach to be able to tackle any type of problem you see, no matter if it's one form or another. We want to have the same approach. We want to have the same strategy where they can throw anything at you and we're able to get an answer out of it.
Yep. One thing that we always like to say is here at Zinkerz, we like to build up your toolbox with all of the tools that you could possibly need so that no matter what problem you see, you just reach in and figure out what tool to use. So Zach has been focusing on making sure all of our math students are ready to go in all of the new trends that we're seeing. Manny, can you tell us a little bit about the verbal side?
I'll be honest with you, when it comes to the verbal, it has always been one of the most trickiest things to prepare for. Because at the end of the day, doesn't matter how much you've read, you are going to come across passages that you do not understand. For example, the language, how they actually sentence are basically being constructed. But to be specific, the literary passages that the SAT is throwing at the students lately is becoming more and more difficult. They have, in a way, elevated the difficulty level to the point where we have students that come back to us and tell us, hey, I struggled. And they were well prepared, but they still struggled. Why? Because usually it's based on the 18th or the 19th century, but they're sticking very, very early 18th century. So it's a type of English that these students are not used to seeing. And the majority of the students these days, they're reading. I'll be honest with you. A lot of my students will be like, are you reading something? Yeah, I'm reading. So what are they reading? Modern books. They are books, they are literature, but they are modern books written in the 20th, 21st century. So they are not getting exposed to the 18th and 19th century, and the SAT is using that to their benefit by giving them literary passages that kind of throw them into this spin of what are they saying. And if you do not understand the first paragraph, you're lost in the second, 3, 4, and 5, you're not going to catch up. And by the time you actually figure out, hey, what's going on, 13 minutes is gone. You're supposed to be on the next passage. So our whole approach has been to prepare you for anything. I'm not worried about, hey, can you read what is right in front of you now? I'm preparing you to be able to read anything that comes your way. Not only prepare you for that, but prepare you to be able to understand the questions and interlink them back to each part of the passage. So it is a tedious process, but that's why we're here. We're here to make sure we are prepared so that we can make sure we provide our students with the best preparation possible.
Yep, and that's part of the reason why we're here, is also to discuss what we have coming up, which is our online marathons, which we are very famous for. If you've worked with Zinkerz before, you've heard and probably done a lot of our marathons. And these marathons are a little different than our classes because they're in a small group setting. And what we do is we really drill out full length mock exams, and it gives you a little bit of a different spin on test preparation. And most of our students love ending their test prep time with us with one or more marathons. We actually, due to high demand, have had to have them for an entire week before the test. So they start Saturday and they go all the way through Thursday. So you can prepare for math or verbal or both any day of the week for an entire week before. During these exams, we are focusing on giving students all of these extra skills, and we are focusing on really, like you said, making sure that they're prepared for anything and making sure they're comfortable for the test.
I don't know exactly what Zach has in mind or a plan. I know I'm doing 2 marathons coming up on the weekend on the 26th and the actual 27th, if I'm not mistaken. In preparation for this and just taking back on the past marathons, the best thing about it for me is when I get a lot of these students together. When I tell a student, you know something, the SAT is just trying to test you. Don't think that if you are feeling you're not doing well, take a second, recompose yourself, keep going. Don't go in there thinking it's hard. Trust me, it's like falling on deaf ears. They look at you and be like, yeah, you're the teacher. You're obviously going to tell me that. You know, you could do it in the sleep, but it's hard for me. And I understand that. But when I have other students that have been preparing for me, that have already taken one and they're going now for a second to see if they can better their score, which most of them do, when they tell another student, no, you're good. You've been prepared by Zinkerz. So you're going in there with an advantage above everyone else because you've been well prepared. You shouldn't be worried. I literally see them calm down. You can literally see slump shoulders go up because they're like, hey, I'm going to be okay. Because if you took it, you're just like me, another 16-year-old. You took it, you did well. So, hey, I could do well as well. So that's one of the best parts about the SAT is seeing how the students encourage each other and how the students push each other to do better. From my side, that's the thing I enjoy the most.
Yeah, I definitely think that community experience that you get with the marathon is something that is really going to make a difference in your level of performance, because it is going to build you up. Like you're saying, it's different from you getting encouragement from your teacher who's done this, right? They've had years of experience, whereas you have someone who's working towards the same goal as you, and you guys are on the same playing field, and they're rooting you on and you're rooting them on. It creates a different atmosphere of your goal, your success that you're going to achieve. And I think we do a good job at not only keeping this personalized approach and one-on-one, making sure students are reaching the level they want, but also kind of creating this bigger picture where we're all trying to make the same success, right? Zinkerz is this family that we're all building towards the same goal.
Impressive. Something, and then I'll be honest with you guys. I've taken it upon myself after every SAT, I jump in the forums. Because a lot of these students, they talk about, what it is that's actually happening. They talk about how it was, and they talk amongst themselves. And I just sit back and I kind of read what there is. And as a trend, it's happening that a lot of them are struggling to finish the reading section. They get through 3 passages, they get through 4 passages, and a lot of them do not get to the 5th passage. So what happens is we have been preparing for this. We've taken upon ourselves to teach them the necessary approach, how to break it down, how to manage your time, how to assess your time, and more importantly, how to be aware of your time. Because I could teach you how to manage your time, but if you're not aware of it because you're coming in there full of nerves and you lose track of time, yeah, there's gonna be a problem because you're gonna
Mhm.
get lost in there, and in the middle of passage number two, hey, an hour has gone by. So it's a very, very good way of helping them when they are in a marathon, since they're doing a complete mock SAT.
Mhm. And all of our educators are well trained in all of these skills on teaching kids time management, on all of the tips and tricks that we work on. So I see we actually have a question about how you can get a job teaching for the SAT. So, in order to become an educator at Zinkerz, we actually go through a very intense hiring process, which starts with several people looking at your resume, making sure that you have the background that you need, going through a phone screen, and then not one but two actual mock lessons. After that, it's not over because we do require additional training after that. And we are constantly updating our content, we're constantly updating our educators, and we're constantly retraining our educators to make sure that we are ahead of the game and staying on top of everything. So even something that might seem as simple as what Manny was saying, time management, is something that we discuss with our educators, and we have guidelines that we follow. And while we have very specific guidelines, one of the best things about working here is we modify every single thing for every student. So every kid might have something a little bit different, a slightly different plan, but overall, the overall process is the same.
To add to that, Carly, one of your favorite phrases. I have no idea why you didn't use it this time. Your favorite phrase is, this is not a cookie cutter type of institute. And at
No.
the end of the day, we tailor make everything. And then Mr. Ramirez, Lionel Ramirez, I'll be honest with you, I've gone through this process. It is a rigorous process. And they might all be smiling with you through the process, but they are testing you to make sure that by the time they expose you to their students, you are the best. And that is one of the reasons I wholeheartedly support and I work here with a smile. For the simple fact that I know I'm among peers and I'm among a group of people who are as passionate about education as I am. So by all means, you know us, you're on our platform, submit your resume, and you might be able to go through this process and hopefully come on the other side as one of the best people necessary to be able to teach any of the students here at Zinkerz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
yep. And we always look for beyond just knowing what you're doing. Manny, we talked about this a lot, just having the passion and caring about the students.
That is the key
So,
thing. Yeah. And I feel that, like Zach, for example, he's so charismatic about it, but he makes sure that you are always putting the student first. And dude, I respect you for that. I respect you for that. So I've given a trend. Any special trends you want to basically highlight before we go, Zach? Because we're running out of time. I just want to leave them with something to think about. What do you have?
Well, I would obviously piggyback on the kind of time knowledge. So when you go through, one thing we really talk about is with math problems too, you can kind of get into this hole, right? Where you think you can solve it and you continue. There has to be some acknowledgement. Okay, maybe this is something I come back to, or maybe this is something that I'm not the strongest in, right? Our goal is for you to score your best. And so sometimes that does mean we have to maybe miss a problem or two along the way. And that's okay, right? What we teach is there's a bigger picture at play, and we need to have a structure set up, a system that we follow that's going to get us to that goal.
right. And we're
Very good.
noticing much more advanced math problems that are being asked, more complex, whereas it used to be maybe 2 steps. Now it's 3 or 4 steps, and you really have to stick with it and stay with the problem and not get lost in it. So it's definitely getting a little bit harder to succeed on the SAT. So we're doing everything we can to make sure our kids are prepared.
And you know something, this is a favorite quote. I took a workshop once in preparation for this, and the instructor said, you have to remember the SAT is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And when someone prepares for a marathon, they take their time and they build up the strength necessary to be able to get through the whole marathon as a whole. As such, that's what we do. We prepare you. We do it properly. We make sure you understand what it takes to be able to run this marathon, which is an SAT. And we make sure that at the end of it, you're happy, because your success is our success, because your success reflects back on all the dedication and the discipline and the consistency and the hard work and the preparation that each one of us puts into making sure you do well. So from here at Zinkerz, we appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate the comment. We appreciate you guys looking at this, watching it. You can watch it. It's going to be on demand on every single one of our platforms. Zach is going to be here because we're going to do one more session of a live before the actual marathons. This session was specifically designed to give you what's coming up, the trends, what are the changes we've noticed. The next session, we're going to talk about tips. And I don't want to, everybody says tricks. I don't want to say tricks. I want to tell you the best practices,
Yeah.
because we know what we're doing. This is not a trick. A trick is something you get lucky, you have a trick. No, we make sure that you are prepared with the best practices when dealing with the test. And we're going to have that next week. We're going to sit down again, we're going to talk, and we're going to make sure that this is done in the best way possible. Okay? Carly, all yours.
All right. So if you're interested in learning more about our marathons, we're going to drop a link in the comments, and you can learn more about our marathons. You can also go to www.zinkerz.com and learn more about what we do as a company as a whole beyond the SAT. But right now, our focus is on getting our kids to that December 3rd SAT. So we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Take care.